I don't know if you know this, but there's like a whole bunch of people in a room down the hallway that's listening as well. I work at Davis Partnership. I've been there for about a year in the aerospace studio. So working almost exclusively on aerospace projects, which are kind of big windowless buildings, but are a Swiss watch inside. And before this, I also work at the university at Anschutz Medical campus, working on computational design with surgeons and doctors to try to figure out how they can use computational design for pre-planning of surgical procedures and tools. And you'd be amazed at how relevant some of the tools and at least the thinking process that we use in computational design is to other professions. And when I came to Davis, we didn't have, I think I was the only one we got hired who understands computational design, has touched Grasshopper, Python, C#, Dynamo. So the idea has been to try to grow a program there. So a lot of things I'm going to talk about may seem really simple, and they are, but they have a huge impact. And the biggest impact has been, in our first year, we've really wanted to try to show that these tools have value, that, I know they have value, but to be able to prove that to other people has been the hard part. So my goal in the first year was to create 100 small, little productivity tools. Nothing to do with design really, but things that would help save us time. And once we would save that time, then we can use that to play and to experiment and then start to learn on design tools. But had we started with design tools, no one would have let us do this. So now we have a group of about 35 people at Davis who are starting to learn, and upper management is starting to take notice, and we've got all kinds of time. So when I say productivity tools, the typical takeaway that I would tell you is that if something takes us 6 clicks or more, it goes in the box of we need to automate that. And typically, I tell all the people in my group, you don't have to tell anybody that you're doing this. If you find a way to automate 6 clicks or more and you saved yourself a day, now you have an option of whether you're going to go next door and have a beer. We're in Rhino, so there's plenty, or dive into the program a little bit deeper and explore design. And that's what people have been doing. So this is very basic, but I'll tell you that what I'm about to show you has saved us days of work. So maybe you all know this, and it is very simple, but whatever. Anytime that I use Dynamo and we're experimenting, I always use the Revit sample project. I like to get in there and just destroy it because I'm not destroying any other project. I can mess with it and I can always get it back. And, through this, you start to find all the little, I don't know if they're errors or overlooked or they're intentionally in there, but there's a lot of weird things. Were they done on purpose? I have to believe they're done on purpose, right? But we find all these sorts of things, so it's fun. But what I want to show you is we work on a lot of multifamily housing projects, and maybe some of you all do this. When we're working through the projects, we number our rooms with a certain numbering sequence, and then the U.S. Postal Service comes back at some point and says, no, we want to rename them based on our numbering system. We take our best guess, it's never right. So all of a sudden, we have a project that's got 1,600 doors in it, 800 rooms or something like that. And we have to go back and renumber every one of those rooms based on the U.S. Postal Service, which means we also have to renumber our doors. And we've gone through all that work of numbering our doors. We put the letter next to it. So the way that we renumber doors, and I'm buying time to tell you the logic, because if this doesn't work, at least you understand the logic. Probably won't work. But the most important thing is understanding the thinking process. So we renumber our doors based on the way the door is swinging into the room. If it's swinging into the room, it gets the same number as the room it's swinging into. So this is room 8610. That would be door 8610A, 8610B. The A and the B are always there. It doesn't matter if the room changes. We still want that A and the B. It's going to save a little bit of time. So somebody comes to me and says, how do we renumber all of our doors to the room they're opening into, but save those letters, right? It's kind of trivial. If you do it manually, it would take you days for something with 800 rooms. But this method will save you a lot of time. I always work in Python because I have a lot more flexibility and I know it a lot better. So I've done, if somebody wants a script, I've done it in both long form Dynamo and also in Python. So that way you can go in, you can understand the mechanisms, what's going on. So if you get this, I don't know if we're going to pass them out, but you can get in there and you can start to play with it and you can understand what the mechanisms are and speak the language of Revit. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get all of our doors as they are with the number and the letter. We're going to export that to Excel because Excel is like this awesome tool. Everything we do uses Excel because we can change things really quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export everything to Excel and then I have it. And now I can do anything I want with it. I can change the numbers sequentially. I can bring it back in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to separate the door numbers from the door letters at first. So I keep all of those letters the same, get rid of the numbers. We don't need them. We have new room numbers. Then we're going to try to find the new rooms that the doors are opening into, get that number, and just put that on the front side of it. Pretty simple. So the first thing that we do is we get our categories. This is a pretty standard way of starting, and we're going to get all of our doors, and we're going to get all of the elements of that category, which is basically getting all the parameters that are associated with this door. The cool thing with this is that we can go through and you can click on any one of these. And I'm lucky that mine is popping up. And I can click on one and it will take me to this door, which is this one right here. So it's a quick way of being able to access all of this information. Now that I have that, what I'm looking to do is, what I said is get the number and the letter. And so in Revit, that's known as the mark. And I will show you that right here. I know this is really simple, but it's helpful to see it all. Properties. Select. And what we're looking for is not the name, not the number, but the mark. This is 105. And here's what I'm talking about when the sample project is a little bit weird. All of these doors have the right number associated. So this is 103. It's going into 103. But this one right here is named 105. It's going into room 101. So there's all kinds of little things like that. As a sample, we're just going to change that. I'm going to change this to A. So we have that for proof of concept. And if this works, it should say 101A. So now that I have the mark, I'm going to use this little program that's right to Excel. This is right out of the box. We've already talked about this. I'm going to use a file path, and that file path is going to write to an Excel file. In order for this to work, you already have to write the file. So it's kind of a weird little workaround, but I open up Excel. I'm going to start a basic project. I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to say, in the spirit of RoMBIS, RoMBIS, save it to my desktop. And I can get out of that. Now, I'll use this file path command. I'll go back and I'll grab it. If you don't do that ahead of time, it won't let you. It's really kind of strange. I always freeze everything. That way it doesn't work when I don't want it to. And I always keep it at automatic. So that worked. Now I have all of my doors just as they were in Revit, only the mark. I should have 105A right here. Okay, cool. Now, because I hate losing information and I'm kind of neurotic about it, what I'll do is I will save as, but with a different name after it. So that way I have a separate, fresh piece of information that I'm working with. I'll get out of that. And I like to keep all these things separate. So the next step is that I'm going to bring it back from Excel, but I'm going to modify it in Excel. I'm going to get rid of all of those numbers so I just keep the letters. And I will bring back my RoMBIS 1. And in RoMBIS 1, let me open this back up. I should have. Here's where I'm going to work on it. So there's a really cool hack, and you can even program in Excel. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the first 3 letters here. And the way that you do it is type in right, which means I'm going to get whatever is to the right of my column, which is going to be A1. I'm going to calculate the length of it, starting at A1. And I'm going to subtract the first 3 numbers, starting from, what is that, the left-hand side, right? Sure. Now that I have this, I can just pull this equation all the way down, and it automatically does this. So when you have 1,600 doors, that goes really quickly. And this is really what I want. Now I have this in a separate row and all as well. I'm going to save, get out of this. I'm going to open this up one more time, and I'm going to unfreeze. And it opens for me. So what we're looking for then is the whole process: file from path, read from Excel. This is all pretty standard. The way that this comes in is broken out into 2 different lists. So I want to put them next to each other. It's kind of list management. I'm happy to explain in depth later. And then what I want is I want to get an item at index. And my index is going to be that second row. So in Excel, I have basically row 1 and row 2, or row 0. In computation, you always count 0 as the beginning. So this is row 0 and this is row 1, and we want just the letters, meaning that that's the only part we want to keep. And so this works. Now the next part is we want to get the parameter for the room that the door is opening into. We want to get whatever that number is. And the cool thing about Revit is that almost all doors have this already built into it. I don't know who the genius was that did that. That was you. I'll give you credit for that. But that's already there. So whoever did that, all doors in Revit already know what room it's going into and what room it's coming from.
Caveat.
Yes.
If you copy a door, it keep the previous room.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the caveat is there's 2 caveats actually. If you copy the door and you place it again, it keeps the parameters that it already had. And the other one is if you mirror it, it like loses all of its information. So we also have other scripts that say, select all the doors that have been copied, tell me who did it, and then I can yell at them and make them fix it, or mirrored. So we have that. There's a few little caveats. But the cool thing is it already has information. So there's a program out there. There's a couple different programs out there. There's one that you can download, and it's just get to from room. There's a whole bunch out there. You could even script it. And it's pretty simple. There's a little Python script, but in here, it's not too complicated. Basically, the Python script is saying, get the to from room, put it here, separate it out by the to room and the from room. And then I modify this. And the cool thing about once you start to understand this and you start to understand Python is you can modify it for your own uses. I'm just getting the number of the room that it's going into. So once I have that, it's telling me, here's all of the rooms, and I'm appending them to the letters. I'm putting the room number before the letter. Frustrating thing is, if you see number 1 right here, it says null. So if I were to run that, I would get all kinds of problems, like this. It would say there's something wrong. So if I go back to the very beginning, and this is a little bit of debugging 101, it was in the first position, and let's find out what that was. It's an exterior door. Most exterior doors, there's not a room on the other side of it. So one of the little hacks that, that we use is I go and I find that door. Oops. It always tells you you can't find it, but then it does. I don't know. Bring this down. Architecture, room separator. No. And I will make a little room around here just to show you that's what the issue is. Okay. And because I have that set to automatic, it's going to run. And we'll zoom back out. And with any luck, that null is now taken up with 209A. The whole issue is set, and the program has already run. And just to make sure, run it again. This last bit, anytime in Dynamo it says set, that's kind of like bake in Rhino. It's giving the handshake back to Revit and doing something. Until you're getting, get is getting information from Revit, and set is putting it back and actually doing something. So it's one of the last things you want to do, because if you're not 100% sure, you'll screw stuff up. So now that we have that, I'll go back, and with any luck, my room 101A will be there. Oops. Yes, success. So it's kind of anticlimactic for just one door, but when you have massive projects, we use the same one, and it works for big projects. There's a few little manipulations you need to do if you have 1,600 doors in Excel. Like, for example, you have a stair door that might only be ST1 or EL1. So you kind of have to go through and mix and match. But taking it through Excel is a lot faster than going room by room, and it's almost always 100% correct given those little caveats. Any questions?
Like the first example, to avoid the null problem.
Yeah.
Breaking your script, you could filter, use a filter on any results from that first get.
Yes.
And take out anything that had no value in the
correct
room name.
Some of the complications with that, though, is that when we separate out those room letters, Excel is reading those cells as a matrix of those doors. And if you take out a null, what we have found, you can replace it with, say, just a space, something like that. But you want to keep the same matrix because it's reading every one of those cells across.
Did you bring the element ID with it, though, so that it tracks it differently?
You know, you probably can. We've gone down this route before, and I've just found this to be a lot quicker. Because what we have done, I mean, if you follow it far enough, you end up deleting things or things get shifted. This I know for sure works. And there's probably a way to do that a little bit more, but we haven't explored it just because this has been so quick. And usually with these scripts, we spend maybe half an hour on them, and then, you know, we're on to the next one because we don't have a budget for R&D yet. But hopefully with, you know, being able to show this, like last week we used this and we were able to save, you know, billing ad services to a client. That starts to get notice. And then you can, you know, slowly work into getting more and more R&D and playtime and working on design.
Just back to the caveat, have you found a workaround for that, or how they?
Our workaround, yeah, our workaround is just to find them and correct them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we had a CAD file of the building model in Revit. Yeah. And when they got in there and started adding doors, they just started copying.
Sure.
So it's got all the old room.
Yeah.
On the fronts. So.
Yeah. The other workaround is just to model it right the first time. But that never happens. Yeah. Any other questions? I think I'm running over. You all want pizza? Ah, perfect. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. That was a quick one.
If you have a situation where you have an extremely large model, let's say thousands upon thousands of rooms, thousands upon thousands of doors, whatever, and to further complicate things, perhaps linked elements, but we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, not necessary. But if it's an extremely large model, you have a situation where it will only get some of the element IDs, or it gets most of the element IDs, but skipping them because of performance. Do you have any kind of like tricks to maybe sort of like slow it down a little bit, sort of like has time to spit up the rest of the call?
I do. I didn't know if I had time for this. I don't have time for this, but I'm going to show you. Sure. So the question is, if you have such a big file that it's computationally too expensive to be able to do this, meaning that you don't have the computational power to run through all of them, what's your next solution? The next solution is, now I could send this out, break it up by level. There's all kinds of different ways that you could break this up. So I wanted to also show, and I won't, but I'll just tell you that's possible, is that we can filter by level. So we'll get all the doors just by level 1 and run that through. Because last time somebody went through and they're like, oh, Nick, actually, I only need to redo levels 6 and 7. So it's really easy to then go back through and select level 1, level 2, or just a whole, levels 1 through 4 and work in chunks. Yeah. There's all kinds of great ways to filter.